Counterfeits of Nigeria's newly redesigned Naira notes, that's the 200, the 500 and 1,000 Naira notes, have begun showing up in the Nigerian economy. The news of the counterfeits comes just days after the new notes were released into circulation. Unfortunately, the news of the counterfeits in circulation has also further fueled the reluctance of Nigerians to accept the new bills. Now, to help calm fears, the Central Bank of Nigeria shared the security features of the new Naira notes, saying it will enable the easy recognition of genuine notes and protection against Nigerians being defrauded. The CBN believes the newly redesigned notes would help to address hoarding, rein in inflation, and most importantly, checkmate counterfeiting. I have Samuel Oyekanmi, Senior Research Analyst at Nairametrics, joining me now as we look at this situation. Samuel, just recently in the news, we heard about 9 million Naira of fake newly redesigned Naira notes was intercepted by the NDLEA in Kwara State, and that's just one of the many stories coming into light on social media. We have people sharing experiences, unfortunately, of them being defrauded with these new notes. Are you surprised at how quickly the counterfeits and the fakes seem to be making their way into circulation?
The truth is, I'm not surprised because, unfortunately, it appears to be like the best time for anyone who wants to be involved in counterfeiting to do that, because Nigerians are not really aware of what the currency is like. It's not really so much in circulation. A lot of Nigerians have not even seen the new notes at the moment. So, of course, if anyone is going to come up with a counterfeit, it would be at this time, because Nigerians can't distinguish between the real deal and the fake ones. So I was not surprised when I saw the news over the week and even the past 2 weeks also. I'm really not surprised, because I would expect them to come at this time. Nigerians do not really know. And then the CBN did not come earlier, even before the announcement and whatnot. They just did that during the week. If they had done that earlier, maybe Nigerians would have been very much aware, and then that would have deterred the activities of this illegal people. But unfortunately, we do not know. In fact, one of the things that made the rounds during the announcement by the CBN was that they just changed the color, and that's all. And you see Nigerians saying it's just a tie and dye issue. Whereas, of course, there are security features, but we do not know. And that means that these guys who produce counterfeits can take advantage of that knowledge gap for the people.
And some of the video still has the old looking 1,000 Naira notes, because of course people are still just a bit tepid about taking it on. So the CBN is trying to give Nigerians more confidence in the new redesigned notes, and they've talked about some of the security features. But Samuel, walk us through some, because I know Nairametrics has sort of done some information graphics for the general public in terms of what these new notes have in terms of the security features around them. So walk us through some of this.
Well, there are quite a number of them. Some of them were in the previous ones, and some of them were just upgrades. So if one of those items that you would obviously look out for, especially the 1,000 Naira note, is the intaglio raised print. And that's like found in the center of the currency, that's the front, and then a little bit above, close to the 1,000, written by the right-hand side. And that intaglio ink is quite different from the relief print that we know as usual, because it's form of like an engraved graphics there. We also had the portrait watermark. Of course, that is something we would have been used to before now. When I was growing up, when you want to identify original currency, you tend to raise it up to a light to see that engraved watermark there to say, oh, this is original or not. But of course, there's been some form of upgrade there. We also have the optically variable ink, and that's just like a triangle, a pyramid upside down now, where when you change the direction of the currency, the color also changes either from blue to green. And then we have a host of many other ones here, but those are two very unique ones that we could talk about. Even the Gram also, it has been in the 1,000 Naira before now anyways, but now we have it written, the image of the 1,000 is there, and then the coat of arms is also there. It's painted in some form of brownish gold by the right-hand side of the currency. These are some of the things that you could probably look out for in each of these currencies. But my question again is, if you are to collect about 1 million Naira in cash, how will someone start looking out for each of these variables in each note? For 1,000 notes of 1,000 Naira, that's going to be a very huge one. But of course, there are security features there.
And the thing is, many of us are not walking around with ultraviolet machines, those machines that some banks and even some businesses have to be able to check these things out. But the CBN has also responded to the growing concerns and say, of course, they're limiting that it had a limited time rather to fully redesign the 200, the 500 and the 1000 naira notes, and say it just did a very simple redesign of the notes. But many people will say, if you didn't have enough time, why go through with it? And it's easier to ask that question now after we heard from the Bank of England as to the process they would use to bring out the new pound notes that would have King Charles III featured on those notes. Those notes are going to go into circulation sometime in mid-2024, but it's going to take a while for them to phase out the old notes. So why the rush? If you're not going to do it well, if it's just going to be tie and dye, unfortunately, as some Nigerians are calling it, why put out such a rush and then really put a deadline also on mopping up the old currency as well? What do you think about that?
Okay, so the issue with the CBN's decision is that they're trying to tackle a major problem that has been bedeviling the Nigerian economy for the better part of this year. And one of them is the fact that we have huge amounts of currency in circulation, and over 86% of that currency in circulation is actually outside the vault of the banks, and that means that a lot of people are just hoarding cash at home. That's one problem, and that is also fueling inflation, and is also believed to fuel the depreciation and devaluation of the exchange rate at the black market and probably at the official market. So the CBN saw this as an opportunity to tackle a number of issues right now. So if we are able to, and of course, let's not get it wrong, restructuring and redesigning of currency, they are two different things. Just like I was having a discussion with one of the assistant directors in the CBN in charge of have they explained that even when you just touch a little bit of something in the notes, an upgrade for counterfeiting, you have designed. It's different from you restructuring now, changing the images of the people and the currency or whatnot. The fact that it changed colors and there were enhanced security features, it's actually a redesign of the currency. But the CBN saw this as an opportunity to mop up excess liquidity in the economy that is believed to spur inflation, and at the same time improve cashless policy or some form of less cash banking in Nigeria, because of course the CBN has raised the MPR, I think about 4 to 5 times already this year, over 550 basis points, and yet inflation rate has remained unabated. Right now, over 21% at a 17-year high. It just tells you that the monetary policy tool is not even effective anymore in combating inflation. And of course, the MPR is supposed to be effective in combating inflation, but it's not happening. And the reason is because a lot of cash are outside the banking system. So if you increase MPR from now to tomorrow, the average Nigerian woman who sells pepper on the road, the barber on the street would not be affected because their money is not going to the bank. It is just circulating in and around the economy. And that is an opportunity to do that. So it's going to tackle counterfeiting. It's also going to tackle inflation, tackle hoarding of currency. It's also going to help spur cashless banking. I think it's actually a good step in the right direction. I would have just expected some better implementation.
And implementation is going to be my final question. So in terms of implementing this policy, you've talked about maybe not necessarily cashless, but at least cashless when it comes to banking transactions, and of course the inflation conversation being had as well. Do you think the news of the counterfeiting will affect adoption and conversion, or adoption and, of course, acceptance with Nigerians? How does the CBN get around that? Because you did flag the issue of possibly the CBN not getting ahead, not possibly doing enough to really educate Nigerians, or at least inform Nigerians about the Naira notes coming out, what to look for and things like that. So how do they quickly bridge that gap so that more Nigerians do not end up being defrauded or falling victim to counterfeit notes?
Unfortunately, in Nigeria, we always say we put the cart before the horse, and that's where we find ourselves, where the CBN is just coming out right now to give us or enlighten the public about the security features in the new notes, whereas illegal guys are already turning out dose of cash in counterfeit notes. But I think this is going to affect Nigerians, and we are like in the middle of the devil and deep blue sea anyways, because a lot of Nigerians cannot easily accept cashless banking because, of course, they do not trust the infrastructure. A lot of people still face declined or unreversed transfers, debited accounts without reversal, and a whole lot of other things. Nigerians do not trust that. And on the other hand, if you do not trust that and you want to rely on cash, you also stand the risk of counterfeiting. And despite these security features, you do not really have as much resources. The CBN is reducing the amount of 1,500 naira in circulation. And we need to understand that in the first place, 1,500 naira, they are not for transactional purpose. They are supposed to be currency or denomination for store of value. They're not supposed to be transactional. But unfortunately, because of the high inflation environment in Nigeria, 1,000 naira is now acting like a 50 naira those days and a 20 naira these days, because you can actually buy anything for 1,000 naira these days. And that's just the unfortunate scenario. But the CBN is trying to ensure that 1,500 naira become store of value rather than rather than transactionary that we do now. And that's why we're saying that if you go to your ATM, you withdraw 200 naira or less from the ATM. That's just in a bid to also reduce the amount of 1,000 in circulation. So of course, Nigerians have the choice to start dealing with 200 naira downwards, which in my opinion and I feel is easier to identify counterfeit than the 1,500 naira. So that's an option. Another option again is to have to rely on infrastructure, but I would really call on the CBN and the banks to actually enhance that, because there's really been issues of hacking even in recent times, and that would also deter Nigerians who do not even trust in it in the first place, and then they are hearing situations of people losing money from their accounts or having funds not being reversed. I think that's a big one, but of course the CBN really needs to do a lot in enlightening people. Let us also understand the gains. So when we put the pros and cons, let's understand that we actually have a lot more to gain in doing this than we stand to lose. If you're able to tell us that, I think every Nigerian, we're not really that terrible that we would not understand when things are done in our own favor. But you need to tell us, we need to understand. We also need to understand that some of these policies are not just rushed, they are thought out. Because right now, a lot of Nigerians feel that this policy is thought out, and that's why you could see that yesterday they extended, they increased the maximum amount that you could withdraw over the counter. It just tells Nigerians that I don't think these guys know what they are doing. But of course, they need to enlighten us.
All right, Samuel, I know it feels like it's a rolling conversation. We're going to see a lot more sort of happen and develop over the course of the coming days and weeks as each of these sort of policies either breathe or even take effect, like the cash withdrawal policy on January the 9th. So we'll be talking to you sometime soon. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
And the cash withdrawal policy, the new redesigned Naira notes all seem to come together as part of what the CBN is intending to do in terms of fighting inflation, controlling the currency in circulation, and of course, bringing more Nigerians into the financial banking system. If we can just get the Naira notes again and some of the security features on them, those are the things that each Nigerian should look out for in terms of being able to tell whether the Naira notes they have, particularly the 1,000, the 500, and 200, which have been redesigned, are new. There are also a few ways in which you can tell if a Naira note is fake, and that's something also, ways in which you can basically identify a fake Naira note as well is available for you. And we just want to make sure that Nigerians know what they can do. If there's a question about the Naira note, simply reject it. Do not accept. Take it to your bank, ask about it, and even go through some of the ways in which you can identify a fake note. If we can quickly get that, and that'll be the last thing we take on this. We have a few things for you. 1,000 Naira notes, yet again, the security features on that.